Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. This video is a follow-up on one I did a few days ago with regards to the teaching of sexual education in Britain's schools. You may remember the video. I'll put a link at the end if you don't. But what was happening was the schools up and down the country were going about the teaching of this subject in very, very inappropriate ways. They were bringing in, for example, drag queens. They were talking about self-pleasuring. They were talking about the various orifices into which people can put things, bits of other people. They were telling children that this was all very fine and pleasant, and it didn't matter what the sex or gender of the person doing it to them was. That was unimportant. This is what they're teaching these children. When I say children, we're going down to primary school age, 7, 8 years of age, as well as 9 through 11 in the junior schools. These teachers were doing this. They were doing it behind closed doors. They were doing it without parental knowledge, and they were telling the children not to tell their parents about it, and it would be our little secret. Now, when you're getting a teacher, someone who works with children all day, putting this kind of information out there, talking about this subject matter, and then saying it's our little secret, there's a word for that. That word is grooming. Every teacher involved in this is a groomer. But then we know how the left-wing teaching unions are. They're Marxist unions who want to get hold of children at a very young age, because they ultimately, the Marxists, the socialists of this world, want to normalise P. And if they can groom these children young, that it doesn't matter what goes into you, where it goes, or who's doing it to you, everything is fine, and they normalise that, they're just creating a whole little, if you like, a little population of pleasure children. That's what these teachers are doing. They're degenerate, they're debased, and they're disgusting. And every teacher involved in this needs to not only just lose their licence and never be allowed to teach again, but should be not within 500 yards of a child for the rest of their lives. And every single thing, every single electronic device they owned needs to be examined. Now, finally, the kickback and the stink about this has risen so high that even government are now launching a review to find out what's going on, to find out why these things are happening, and hopefully to stop it. We're going to have a look at this article, but it makes for some very depressing and disgusting reading. And this is all down to teachers and socialists. And anyone who claims to be a socialist, point them to this article and tell them this is what socialism is all about. Here we go. So, the review of sex education ordered after kids are taught about that. You can see these words. I'm not going to say them too early in the video because it does cause problems. But, you know, putting things inside you or doing things to yourself. They're talking to kids here. Children. 5, 6, 7, 8 years of age. Not teenagers. Don't be thinking that this is age appropriate. This is small children. And they're bringing in men with fetishes, fetishized men, to talk about this in schools. Do you know what's going on in your child's school? Because if you don't, you need to be at the gates. Anyway, Britain is to launch a review of its sex education guidelines after it was found that some schools have been teaching children about, rear-ending, that sort of thing, and pleasuring themselves. A report this week has claimed that schools in Britain have been teaching children as young as 12 years of age, but in actual fact, when it turns out it's as young as 8, about self-generated pleasure, as well as things in the mouth and things up the rear. Something that has now prompted the country's government to launch a legal review of the country's sex education guidelines. This is so disgusting that the worst part of it is that they're not telling the parents what they're teaching or who's teaching it or how they're teaching it. And these kids are coming home sometimes traumatized at what they have learnt, and the parents have got no idea of what is going on. They're, like I say, they're bringing in grown men with a sexual fetish to sit in a room with children. And now, the number of these men, historically, we can see, you can go and Google how many of these people have then subsequently been prosecuted or previously been prosecuted, because there's no vetting, for things involving children. It is horrendous. And these schools, these socialist schools, are bringing these men in to sit with children and discuss these things. And there's not 1 ounce of consent from the parents. There's not 1 ounce of knowledge of the parents. Don't let their parents do not know. Why are the schools being so secretive about this? Why are they saying, well, we'll discuss it, but you must keep it here. You don't talk about it out of school. Don't tell your parents. Our little secret. Our little secret. You know what that. You know what they are. Every single one of them. Originally published by the Telegraph late last week, the report was also alleged that many children were being given extensive lessons on transgenderism, with a number of pupils being told that there are 100 genders, and that the very idea of virginity is just a social construct. No, it's a physical construct, okay? It's called a hymen. The revelation has sparked outrage amongst a number of politicians in the perennially ineffectual ruling Conservative Party, with the publication reporting that the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has finally announced a review of government guidelines for sexual education. Now, this has come from Miriam Cates, friend of this channel, one of the very, very few decent, right-minded members of Parliament who's actually on the side of the angels and is safeguarding children. And we bless her for doing it. She makes herself very unpopular with her stance. This is a really, really weird stance she has, in which she stands up and says children need protecting. It's weird, I know. Well, at least it's weird if you happen to be a left-winger, if you happen to be someone who's a teacher, if you happen to be someone with some kind of fetish, because none of those people want to protect children. They all want access to them. In a statement, the Prime Minister stated he has written to the Department of Education asking them to ensure that schools are not teaching inappropriate or contested content in RSHE. That's not, they called it a different name when I was young. Our priority should always be the safety and well-being of children. Everybody, every single human being's priority should be the safety and well-being of children. If you can look at a child and not immediately be concerned of safety and well-being, then you are the problem. He said, and schools should also make curriculum content and materials available to parents. I have got a very simple solution. And I've said this before in the previous video. You put a camera in the class. Now, it's not open for general use, but any parent at that school can log in, use a private login or whatever, can log in and monitor every lesson, can see which teacher is teaching what subject to their child, and can see what they're teaching, but can also see how they're teaching, the words they're using. And if these teachers know that the parents are watching them, these teachers ain't going to get away with this level of disgusting debauchery. Because I am not surprised at this. We've said for a long time, for years now, for 2-3 years, that this has been the push from the left. It's been the push from the socialists to about this and children. They're constantly going on. Their obsession with children. Sunak's announcement that sex education in England will be reviewed has been met with praise from multiple MPs, many of whom expressed shock after seeing the Telegraph's original report last Saturday. According to the write-up, a number of primary or elementary school children in the country will be... This is primary school, elementary. These are your 5, 6, 7-year-olds. Were being given lessons on pleasing yourself by teachers, and with pro-transgenderism messaging prolific in the curriculum of schools. My 13-year-old was taught there are over 100 genders, one concerned parent reportedly said. There's 2. At that age, my children have been taught accepted terminology such as cisgender, non-binary and gender fluid. It's not accepted. In fact, it's unacceptable. Calling someone cis is a hate crime. It is a divisive description. It is therefore, under UK law, a hate crime to call someone cis. There's no suggestion that many people would find these terms and ideology contrary to their beliefs, religious or otherwise. And you are entitled to. Philosophical belief is a protected characteristic in law. You can say anything you like and claim it is your philosophical belief, and you have that right in law to say it. 2010 Equality Act. And to all these wankers out there, go fuck yourselves. I have got a philosophical right protected in law. I can do what I like. Schools in the country have also reportedly been using resources created by NGOs. They mean Stonewall. Stonewall, a group dedicated to the erasure of women and the replacement of women with women and men who want to be women. And they were formed to protect gay people and give gay people rights. Gay people have got all those rights now. Stonewall had no further reason for its existence, so now it's going for the transgenderism, and they are organised criminals who go in and say, give us £100,000 and we'll put a plaque on that wall, otherwise we'll tell people what bastards you are. Well, hey, Stonewall, fuck you. Stonewall are part of the problem, because everyone in Stonewall, 99% of them, I guarantee I've got, well, in my opinion, I've got to be careful what I say here, it is my belief that people who are members of Stonewall are also members of the P community. Put it that way. That's my belief. That's my philosophical belief, and you can do nothing about it. Schools are stuck between activists and the guidance. Department of Education advisor Mark Layan explained, saying that while there were penalties for schools that did not give schools the minimum level of sexual education, there were absolutely no penalties for going overboard, meaning there is no built-in ceiling to what children might be taught. Yeah, actually there is. I think what we need to do is tell the parents who's teaching these things to their children, and let just nature take its course. Because I can guarantee you put these teachers in a room full of parents and then get the teachers to explain fully what they're doing to those children, I think they'd be lucky to get out of that room alive. They need to be prosecuted. They are groomers, and they need to be kept well away from children. And I am so angry. I'm going to come up and stop, take a breath. Between finishing that rant, I had to go off and get myself a cup of tea and calm down, because I was shaking. I am disgusted that these things happen. I'm not surprised that they happen, but I'm disgusted that they happen. And they keep happening. I've been doing this now for over a year, and the number of stories I've done about teachers, about schools, about pushing this level of degeneracy onto sometimes even younger than 5, even preschoolers. Why do these teachers, why do these left-wingers, why do these socialists keep pushing this agenda? Why do they keep pushing this kind of content and this subject onto very, very young children? And why do they do it behind the backs of the parents? We know why. We know full why. They need to be thoroughly investigated. Every damn one. I don't know how many teachers there are in this country. Let's say there's 200,000 teachers. We need to investigate 200,000 teachers thoroughly. And anything that's found, any single tiny thing that's found, they're out. They didn't go, not just out of teaching, they have a court order. They do not go near children again. And if they find anything that is convictable, they do time in prison. And everyone has got to know who they are. And I've always maintained that you do these things to kids, you should be tattooed across the forehead with your crime, and then you go out after you've done your time into society and see the kind of reaction you get. Because if you are pushing this shit on children, then you get all the shit coming back at you tenfold. I do not care. Now, I can feel it. I'm getting right there. I've had a cup of tea and everything, and I'm getting angry again. So I'm going to stop, and I'm going to ask you all, please, share this video. And let's give Miriam Cates a round of applause. She has done marvels. She's pushing. All the time she pushes this. It's her pet cause, and I salute her. This channel salutes her. So please, she is, like I said earlier there, she is on the side of angels. So thank you very much for listening. I'm going to stop now because I'm just so angry with it, and I just need to stop. So thank you very much for listening, and until next time, take care, Stay safe, stay well. Jesus Christ, look after your children. Do not let them go alone into a room with a teacher. And goodbye.